Welcome to Ink and Flame. I'm your host, Tina Kutras. Today we're sitting down talking to LB August about her novel, In the Shadows. Hi, Liz. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How's it going?
Good. I'm so excited to chat with you tonight. Where are you at right now? Where are you coming to us from?
I am based out of Ohio. Glorious Ohio.
And is it nice and warm there?
It is. It's finally consistently warm. Our weather is so up and down. It's been about 80, 90 lately. It was 60 and raining. It hasn't been fun, but we finally are getting nice weather and summer is finally upon us. So I'm very happy about that.
Everything's going green or in bloom. It's fantastic. Yes. I'm loving being outside.
Yes. I felt like we were cooped up forever. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
That's great for writing novels, but not so great for the tan, I suppose.
No, or just you need that sun on your face sometimes. I feel in Ohio in the wintertime, if anyone from Ohio will understand this, it is gray from pretty much October until May. It's gray outside. It's not like a lot of Florida, I think of, because I've been to Florida a lot in the wintertime, and it's still sunny and bright, even if it's colder. No, it's just gray here. And it is so depressing. By February, you're like, can we just get some sun, please? And then you're just
I didn't
hurry
know that.
up and give me some sunshine. It's very gloomy a lot of the time in the winter. So once it gets nice out, we're all shredding everything and running out the doors. We're like, sunshine. That first hint of nice weather, we're just out in shorts. There's so many memes about Ohio specifically, because it's everyone jokes about Ohio, but it's 40 degrees in October and we're all bundled up, and it's 40 degrees in May and we're all in shorts and tank tops and we're like, oh, the sun's out. Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're on the East Coast and it's raining from about, I don't know, March until June, mid-June. We're only just getting past it now.
No.
All right. So I guess without any further ado, let's start talking books.
Perfect. So I'll show my copy of it. So this is my book, In the Shadows. This is book 1 of the Amari series. I have a total of potentially 5 books that I want to write in it, but book 1 and 2. So book 2 is Beneath the Veil, and I'm working on that currently. And these two, book 1 and 2, will be a duet, and then the rest will be standalones. One may end up being a novella. Still trying to decide. It's one of those things where I'm like, this was supposed to be one book. So I say I have a plan for a novella, but I'm like, it could very well turn into a full-length novel. We'll see what happens.
It happens.
These characters like to talk, so I can't help myself. But yep, awesome. This is a dark romantasy, so if you like fated mates, stuff like that, this is perfect.
Wicked. So when you were younger, you shared that you kind of struggled a little bit with reading.
I always make a joke, and people are like, what? And I'm like, I failed Hooked on Phonics. No one really believes me when I say that. And I was like, no. I distinctly remember not being able to do Hooked on Phonics because I had been struggling with reading. I also, later in life, I got diagnosed, I'm ADHD, so I have autism and ADHD. So now it makes sense. But I am one of the, it's considered the lost girls, which are the millennials that should have been diagnosed as children with ADHD or autism, and didn't get diagnosed usually until they're in their 30s. So as a kid, I struggled a lot with reading because the attention just wasn't there. And I remember my parents buying Hooked on Phonics, because obviously in the 90s, it was the big thing, right? And it not working. And I was like, this isn't helping me at all. And so it really put a negative aspect on reading for me. And I remember trying when I was a kid to pick up reading, because I had a lot of friends that love to read. And I was just like, no, it's not. My attention just gone. Couldn't focus long enough. So definitely struggled with it as a kid and didn't start reading until 22, I want to say, is when I picked up a book again. So it was a long time without actually I read a little bit in college. Not a lot. I would say between high school and 2022, I probably read 10 books in that 20 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
15 years, who knows? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't really read. And now I'm like, yeah, I read 10 books a month. Who would have thought?
Wow.
So what sparked my interest in reading was I had a coworker come to me in 2022 and was like, hey, I have a New Year's resolution to start reading and like actively read. Would you like to do a book club with me? And I was like, I don't read, but yeah, because I have several of my really good friends are readers. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I want to be like them. I want to read. I want to be able to get like book recommendations from them and read, like have those like conversations, like pick up a habit, like something they're interested in. And so we started reading, and then I discovered audiobooks, and that like when I was a kid, I didn't know that those existed. And so once I started reading, I was like, I'm having issues like staying focused. And I was like, what if I just try an audiobook? And that sparked everything, I would say, because now I'm primarily an audiobook reader because I usually have them on while I'm working. But for some reason, for me, how my brain works, audiobooks are the best way for me to read. And once I figured out that, I was gone. I mean, I think the first year I read 60 books in 2022, and then 2023 I read like 150, and that's my average now is 150 books a year. So I went from reading like absolutely nothing to almost like 200 books in a year, and I'm like, I don't know who I am anymore because that's weird.
That's
Never would have guessed
impressive,
it.
though. Like, I listen to them a lot because I pour candles all the time. So
Yes.
that's how I like read at the same time as I'm pouring candles, because let's face it, it's pretty mindless.
Mhm.
So when I first started listening to audiobooks, it was just because I wanted to be reading and I couldn't. I had to do stuff. So I totally relate, but holy cow, that's still a lot of books.
Yeah, I read a lot, but it's really easy for me because, well, also one thing that like people are like, oh, audiobooks are so slow. And I'm like, well, the trick is I like dual reading. So I always do like the ebook usually anymore and then audiobook. Well, I discovered when I first like started doing that my eyeballs read faster than I like ear hole read is what we call it. And so I sped up the audiobook to match, and that like changed so much for me. I was like, you can just speed it up and I still like understand everything that's happening, but it matches like where my eyeballs would go. So it keeps my attention and keeps me going. Ooh, but that's like the trick for me is to speed it up. I'm good to go. I just
Me
fly
too.
through them.
Sometimes it actually sounds better. Like, I'll use Onyx Storm, for example. Listening to it at like the normal speed, it's just so slow. So I had to speed it up.
Too slow. And it depends. Like anymore, I used to be like consistently at like 1.5, and now I find myself at like 2 times speed, and I was like, who am I at 2 speed? And I'm like, it really depends on the narrator. And like, I try not to, but sometimes I'm like, man, you're still talking way too slow for me. I'm going to speed you up a little bit more. I'm like, yeah, we're good.
That's hilarious. Wow, that's incredible. So what book did you start with? I have to ask, what book did you and your coworker start with?
People who know me are going to be shocked by the first 2 books that I read that I distinctly remember reading, which were Where the Crawdads Sing and Verity. People who know me now would be like, what? Yes, those are, I distinctly remember reading those 2 books. And I read a lot of like nonfiction too, which is, looking back, strange as well, because now I'm like, oh, what did I read this past week? Oh, a monster romance, a dark romance, another dark romance. Oh, and then there was like a fantasy that I threw in there randomly, and a thriller. So it's like, I don't know. You can definitely tell, like, if I scrolled back in like my Goodreads history and I like look at what I was reading before, and I'm like, you can see the shift where it went from like contemporary romance, which I don't read a lot of anymore at all, to like fantasy. And then it was like all fantasy from then on. I'm like, yeah. Once I figured out like where I love thrillers, I still read a lot of thrillers. I did that when I first started, when I was in college, a lot of the books that I read were thrillers if I read it. Or I read like the Hunger Games series when I was in college, which is very late to the game because I was in my 20s, but I read those when I was in college, and thrillers, that's like it. And now I'm like, when I first started reading, I was like, oh yeah, I really like thrillers. So like police protocol books, those are like my niche. If I want to like just read something that will really keep me entertained, it's usually a police protocol book.
Cool. I haven't read any of those. I do love the fantasy romantasy world myself, but I definitely haven't read a Police Protocol. So what kind of book is that? Like
Like one
where?
of the serial killers. But I recently
Okay.
discovered, and this you would think that, okay, this would make more sense of why I'd be into it. Romantic suspense. It mixes like thrillers and romance together. I'm like, yes. How did I not start reading this
Sounds good.
sooner? Love them. Fantastic. They mix like what did I read? Toni Anderson, I want to say is her name. She's like a whole series where it reminds me a lot of Bones, which is like an old TV show. It reminds me so much of that series. And so I just flew through all of the like books in that group. I loved it. It was like the perfect mix of like a smart woman and like an FBI agent, and they like fall in love, and it's like fantastic. I was like, now this is where I like to read.
So then what inspired you to write In the Shadows?
That's so hard for me to answer because my knee-jerk reaction, and this is just me, I wrote it out of spite. People
Wow.
like,
Okay.
what do you mean? Well, at the time, so I had read Throne of Glass, which is one of my favorite books. It is my favorite series. I read that I finished it in December of 22. And then I started reading, like, I wanted to stay in the fantasy romance and like romantic fantasy. So I started reading more in 2023, but I hated every single character. And I was like, why is it always like, I started to notice this pattern, right? Like every romantasy or like fantasy romance has this really like strong MMC that's like broody and usually has shadow powers. And then you have like this kind of weak FMC that doesn't know she's strong until a man shows up. And I'm like, I'm kind of sick of the same old, same old. Like, can we get something a little bit different? And in March, I had this like random idea come to me, and I have a reel on my socials way back that I reenacted my conversation with my best friend Ariel, and I was like, you know what? Wouldn't this be a really cool story where like you had this FMC who actually was like the shadow mommy instead of a shadow daddy, because I wanted her to have the power. I was like, and then she was like married to like this grim reaper. And then you have like this guy that shows up that's actually her fated mate, her like soulmate. Wouldn't that be a really cool story? She's like, yeah, you should write it. And I was like, nah, I can't do that. She's like, why not? And I was like, me, right? Honey, no. She's like, well, you wrote in college, as in like, I have a bachelor's degree and I would write like journal articles for like science stuff. She's like, you have experience writing things. I was like, not this type of stuff. What are you talking about? She's like, just write it. Just write it. And I was like, and I like pushed back on her for like a solid month. I was like, I can't write a book. She's like, yeah, you could. Just like that you are like not, you won't stop talking about this. Will you please go write it? And so I took her advice and I started handwriting the story. And I started writing this one scene that I could not get out of my head. And I still have it. I actually know exactly where it's at. It's in a notebook that's on my desk behind me. And it's not even in the first book. So I'm like,
Oh, wow.
the way I started writing it a little bit for Beneath the Veil, and I'm so excited to get to that part because it has been stuck in my head since April of 2023. And I'm like, I just need this part of the story to pop up because it's so good. Like, even
That's a whole lot of patience for you to do.
so much pages. It's so funny because I look back in like my notebook that's got like the first scratches of the story and like where my brain was going at the time. There's no names. There's just like villain for like the character, which at the time villain is my FMC, and there's a hero for the MMC, and then just like a god's name is all it says, and I'm like, yep, it doesn't say anything, or like side character name here, like that's all it was. Just a scene with like random letters where like people's names would eventually go, but it's such like it looks like a Mad Lib kind of thing where it's like, oh, you just fill in the words here, and it's like you see the scene, but like there's words missing. So now I'm like, oh, I know exactly like who those characters are. Like they are fully developed now in my head, but it was very much an earworm, right? Like with music and get like stuck in your head.
Yeah.
It's like that, and my ADHD took over, and it was like, you're going to hyperfixate on this until you get it out of your head. And that's how the story was written.
So from when you conceived it, it was like 2 years before you actually wrote it.
No.
Longer.
I came up shorter. So
Okay.
this is where people get shocked because my timeline is going to be a little wild. So I came up with the idea in March of 23, started writing the book in April of 23, and I was done with the first full edit in July of 23, and it was sent to an editor at
Holy crap.
140,000 words.
Wow. Okay.
Very fast. And then some stuff happened with that editor, and I got a new one. And we did tons of rounds of edits. Between April and July, I had alpha readers with me, and I wrote the first half, and then they read it, and then I wrote the second half, and then they read it. And so we did all the edits and stuff before it went into an editor. And then I published in February of 24. So not even a full year after I came up with the random idea in my head, I published it.
Wow.
It's very
That's
quick.
quite the run.
It's very quick.
Wow.
Was it smart? No, it was not.
Did you have to go back and do any additional editing, or did your editor catch most of it?
Most of it. So I had an amazing friend. Her name is Tally. I met her when I started from the very beginning. I'll say that I joined Instagram in February of 23, and I very quickly met some amazing, amazing people. And I'm still friends with all of them. All of my alpha readers were friends that I made when I first started on my Instagram. And that was like such a scary time, right? Like I joined it, I just started meeting these people, and Carrie was the first person I told, which is my best friend that I do a podcast with. And she's always with me. Like if I see stuff, it's always me and her talking. Or if you go in my stories, it's always me and her. But I remember distinctly, she was the first one on Instagram I told. And I was like, hey, so I'm writing a book. She's like, wait, what? I was like, I know we're just like becoming friends, but like I wrote a book and I need someone to help me and like read it. She's like, yes. And then I had a couple friends like join in. I think I posted it in, I want to say May or like June. No, it was probably May of 23. So I'm still really, really new on Instagram. And so many of my friends were like, I've never done this before, but I'm more than willing to like help you and like support you through this. And then a whole bunch of stuff happened with the editor that I had signed with. And Tally, who had been my friend from when I started on Instagram, was like, can you just give me your book? I was like, no, I don't want to cross that line. Also, this isn't your style of book, because she is very much like literary fiction. She likes books with like deep meaning to them and like a lot of like political aspects and like the struggles of the human like psyche and stuff. And I was like, this isn't your type of book. And she's like, just give me your book. I was like, there are people doing things in this book. And she's like, just give me your book. And so I was like, all right, well, she's like, can I do a sample edit for you? And I gave it to her, and I was like, fine. You twist my arm. I gave it to her, and she loved it. And she had sent me back these amazing notes. And I credit to her. Like I told her when she sent me her notes back, I said, you are the key that I was needing. I felt like I was stuck behind a door and I needed someone to help guide me through it. And that was you. And she's just like, oh. I was like, you really helped me find my voice. So we did a bunch of editing to it. And even my alpha readers, when they read it after, like they read pretty much like the first draft, I would call it. And then I did a developmental edit with her, and I did like all the copy line, the publication edits, all these things. And I gave it back to my alphas as like the final copy. Here's the baby that we started with. And they're like, this is still the same story at its core. But from the beginning to now, like you can tell where you had changed as an author and you found your voice. And I was like, that's all because I had an editor that like held my hand and said, stop holding back, write what you want, let's go. And so I definitely feel like a lot of the scenes got dialed up, and it really helped me come into who I wanted to be and how I wanted the story to be told. And it really took an editor that understood me. And so that was a great risk, and I'm glad I took it with her.
Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, what a great friend.
I know.
And you didn't know her before you found Instagram. You met her through Instagram.
No.
Wow.
She was one of the first people I met. Like there was a mutual friend that we had at the time that was doing like all the like tours and stuff, like book tour, like post tours and stuff like that, like trains, right? Like trains.
Yeah, exactly.
we had done those quite a bit together, and we had started chatting, us and a couple other girls, and we just clicked. And so, like, it just happened.
I can relate. I have a few of those too.
Yep. And I would say the majority of the people I talk to now are all people that I've met from Instagram. So, I mean, Ariel's really my only real life friend, I call her, because we used to work together. And so she was the person that's in real life that knows me. But everyone else, like, I talk to on a regular basis is all from like Instagram and TikTok.
Very cool. It is an amazing community. They really do back each other. Like, I find it incredible that, you know, they're very supportive. I've really enjoyed the relationships that I've formed over the last 2 years, maybe, I guess. And like you said, it started with the trains. So that's cool.
And that's a lot of them. Yep. All started with the post trains. Who would have thought?
Yeah. It's funny, right? So how did your personal journey influence your story?
I don't know if it did. I'm trying to think of, you know, I have some, like, I'm trying to think of how to word it. A parent that's very narcissistic is probably the easiest way to put it. And so there's a lot of vile characters in my book. The best way you know that a character is going to be hated by everyone is if you yourself hate your own character. And there are a few of them that I'm like, you are a disgusting person. And that's exactly how you should have been written. So I would say some of those aspects would be that's how, like, I drew on to make them so horrendous. But it's a very dark story, so I wouldn't say a lot of my personal journeys in it, but more of the aspect. So there's an underlying theme within In the Shadows, and it's about unmasking. And that in itself is kind of hard to understand, not being on the spectrum. But if you have ever, like, gone through the journey of, like, finding yourself and trying to become, like, who you truly want to be, that is a huge aspect in the story. And I didn't realize that, to be honest, until I did some of the final read-throughs of the story. And it hit me in the face so hard. I'm like, wow, this is truly a journey of, like, you were forced to kind of, like, hide yourself and hide who you are and who you want to be. And so you have to take this journey to become your authentic self. And I did go through that journey, being, you know, learning who I am and how I, as an adult, you know, you kind of go through that anyways. But it's very much of how can you become your authentic self and find the people that love you and build that community around you. There's a lot of found family in it. You know, we all love the found family trope. And so having these, like, really sweet characters that are just so devoted to each other, that is definitely, like, near and dear to my heart as well.
Very cool. And I can definitely see that, the finding yourself in the journey. Like, I'm almost 50 and I still stumble over that person. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
So, what about the world building? How did you approach the world building?
In what aspect of, like, how did I lay it out or how did I come up with it?
So your world is very, very different. Like, you're kind of in a darker realm. So
yes.
Was that some of your personal experiences, or was that just your imagination on fire?
So as far as, like, it being darker, I think I wanted something, best way to put it, I wanted the vibes, right? Like, I wanted something, there's a lot of mystery in the story of, like, what is actually going on. And so I've always liked, best way to put, Hades in, like, the underworld, how, like, it's always a little mysterious. Really, the only person who knows are the people who have been there, or, like, Hades, right? And I love that aspect. And there's a lot of mythology, like, pulled into the story. I'm a huge Greek mythology person. I mean, I have a tattoo that's got Hades and Persephone in it. And so I love the aspect of, like, this world that, you know, it's kind of darker and kind of, like, gritty, but it has this, like, beauty to it. And I think a big inspiration, I would say, from Scarlett St. Clair's A Touch of Darkness, like, Persephone went, like, thinking the underworld's, like, this terrible place, right? And she finds, like, this beauty to it. Like, you have to find the beauty in the darkness, right? And I wanted something like that. I wanted something where each kingdom has its, like, own element, and it's got its own, like, atmosphere to it, where each spot is claimed by a god, because then it adds, like, different elements to it where It's going to have a different look to it. The landscape is going to be a little bit different because it's going to be preferences of what the god wants. And then the powers within it are going to be a little bit different. And the characters are going to be a little bit different because they're going to have a culture of their own kingdoms. And they're all separated because 3 of the 4 kingdoms are in the sky. So it's like they all had to have like these different aspects, but I wanted them to be very distinct. And I knew that one of them was going to be this like dark, like gothic kind of place. And I'm like, I just really want those vibes, right? Like I want to be able to feel like, one, you probably shouldn't go there. And then you're like, oh, but this place is really pretty once you like get to know it a little bit. So I wanted something just a little bit different.
Nice. So if you could give some advice to somebody getting started writing, what would you wish somebody could have told you?
Write as many of the books as you can before publishing. I wish somebody would have told me how difficult it is to write and market your book at the same time. If I wasn't,
that's a good point.
If it's a standalone, I think it'd be fine. Like, not a big deal. I would probably write more than just one book at a time because it is very draining. I don't think there's a lot, I wouldn't say it's gatekeeping, but being an author, specifically an indie author, is very solitaire. We talk, but I think once you're in it, you understand. But prior to that, you really don't know what you're getting into. It's a lot like parenthood. You don't really know what you're getting into until you experience it. And then you want to warn everyone. You're like, all right, no one's going to tell you this,
right,
but you're going to get crapped on a lot. Okay. Same with being an author. You're going to get crapped on a lot. Okay. So I wish someone would have told me, write the second book, or at least be in like the final edits of the second book before you even try to publish the first one, because that is the biggest struggle. As I've said, I still work full time. As you saw, I have a child. So the mixture of like trying to market my book, working a full-time demanding job, having a child at home, like, it's stressful. Yeah. And so I wish someone would have just like sat me down and been like, listen, write everything. Get the duet done, then talk about publishing. Because if not, you're going to be stressed about getting all this marketing figured out all at the same time while you're trying to write. So it's very draining. You wouldn't think that making like graphics and captions and stuff would be draining, like creatively, but it is. It's very draining.
The social media is the hardest part. Like, it is for me because I would say I'm bordering on introverted. Yes. But I find that it is seriously the hardest part. I'm like, and let's face it, when it comes to social media, and I'm guilty of it myself, I'm looking for the stuff that makes me laugh or gasp. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
yes,
it's not just that person saying, look at me.
Yes. And it's so draining. I hired on a PA because I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And that's, right? I think and like, secondly to that, like, marketing is really hard, but do it how you want. And I think that's another thing that gets like, everyone's like, oh, I'm an expert in marketing. You need to post 4 times a day. You need to post this, and that. Like, this works and that doesn't. And I'm like, you know what? No one knows what they're talking about. Okay. No one. I'm like, if we were like, oh yeah, I post like 3 times a day on this social media, and then I post like twice a day over here. And I'm like, I post 3 times a week. That's it. And I cross post everything. Because again, I have a full-time job and a young child. I don't have time to be like posting. I'm not that. Also, like, I want to save my creative juices for my story that I'm writing. I'm not going to put it into marketing. Okay. Maybe once I get done with everything I can, but I'm an author. I'm not a marketer at all.
Right. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you have like almost 1,000 reviews on Goodreads.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's quite the achievement with the amount of time that it's been, like, when you published it. That's pretty impressive.
I like to think so.
So you did something right.
I did something. Sometimes I'm like, I did something right. Something there. It's not bad. Then I'm like, yeah, well, it's always hard. I think that something that kind of steals the joy as being an author is we're always like, it's either imposter syndrome or we're doing comparisons to other people. So I'm like, well, yeah, like, sure, I reached 1 million page reads, but so-and-so got it in 3 months and it took me 10 months to get to it. I'm definitely not as good as them. Or it's like, what am I doing wrong? Like, they're getting theirs, like, they're getting all these reviews, all of these, like, they're #1 on the charts. Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm still doing the same thing. And I think it really, really steals the joy out of being an author and, like, wanting to be in the space and, like, connect with readers because we're always wanting to, like, compare ourselves. And I have been really trying to, like, shift the mindset of, they're not my competition. They're my colleagues. And I have to remember, it's a colleague.
Oh, I
need to
that.
be cheering them on. I don't need to be trying to compare myself. Can I say, okay, this worked for them. Maybe I can like draw on them and get some help with like marketing. And I have done that. One of the girls that I recently met, her name is Gretchen. She wrote Smoke and Scar. She is a marketing person. It's actually her job. And so she's done really, really well. Like phenomenal with her publication of her book. And so I have reached out to her and said, hey, this is what I want to post. Can you like help me? Like, is there anything that you would edit or like change with this? Like, how would you word it? And like, am I doing this wrong kind of thing? She's more than happy to help me. And I think that's
cool.
Like the nice thing. Like if you see something and you want like help with it, a lot of us, especially in the indie community, we're like, yeah, come here. Let me help you. Come on. Let me tell you how I fix this. And that's, you meet a lot of great people and it's great. They're just fantastic.
Yeah, they really are. So you've mentioned wanting to see more empowered female characters in fantasy. How do you approach that?
I think the best way to do it is to just write the character that you want. I know that sounds such like a kind of a cop out, but I think for me, I wrote Lily as the character like I wanted. I wanted to see a character that had similar struggles as me. I wanted a character that I could want to look up to. Like, I want to be Lily when I grow up. Like, I would love to like have her mindset and like have her strength and her ability to get through the stuff that she has to go through. And that's what I wanted that in a character. And so that's how I wrote her. Because I'm like, she struggles. She's on the spectrum as well. She's neurodivergent. And so you see a lot of her like struggles with regulating her emotions and like being able to like focus and do things that she has to get done. And so it's nice being able to have a relatable character at the same time.
Yeah, and I'm positive that there's a lot of people who would truly appreciate that connectivity to the character as well.
Mm-hmm. And that's really what inspired my dedication is actually, I have 2 dedications in my book, but the first one is for neurodivergent people. And I've had several readers reach out and a couple of them been like, I opened your book and I read the dedication and I started crying because it's not often you see a book where that one of the characters is going to be on the spectrum and they're going to have similar struggles. And I know that I'm going to relate to this person. And I'm like, yeah, because I think the best way to write a neurodivergent character is when you are neurodivergent, because sometimes it can be very like cartoony and like over the top. But especially with like Lily, she has probably a little bit more of autism than she does ADHD. And so getting to watch her like go through those struggles is a little too relatable at times. I'm like, I definitely put myself a little too hard into that character, but it's okay. But it's nice because you don't see it. And especially in like the fantasy, there's not a lot in like fantasy and romance in general where you have a neurodiverse character. So wanting to have like a strong female character that is like the powerful one, but also has all of these struggles, you're like, yeah, see, she can do it. I can too.
Yeah. I mean, my son is neurodivergent as well. And I can tell you that your description, what you just said, is probably the best. Cartoony is probably the best analogy I've ever heard for that.
Yeah. That I have a whole list. Because March is neurodiversity month. And so I have a whole list of like neurodiverse recs, right? And I've read a couple of them and I'm like, why does this feel like I'm watching a cartoon? Like it's over the top, over dramatic. I'm like, I know I'm dramatic, but this is too much.
That is so cool. I think I'd love to see that list, to be honest, because it really does help you to, parent for one.
Yes. Yes.
When you kind of can put yourself into those shoes. So I love that. That's amazing. So a little bit change of the topic, but what are your thoughts on the rise of the indie world and how it's changing?
I love it, honestly, because I have found myself reading trad books and being very disappointed because they all feel copy, paste, copy, paste. And then I pick up an indie book and it's so refreshing and new and different. And I'm like, I don't know where these people are getting their ideas from, but I want in on it, okay? Because these are fantastic. I love them. And it's just so beautiful. And I don't know. It's just so good. I love the community of the indie authors. I love their writing. It's always you get the different representations that you usually don't get in trad books. Like if I'm trying to find like characters that are POCs or that are LGBTQ, I'm like, I'm not really going to find that in trad books. I'm going to find it in these indie books because they're writing from their experience. And I want that. I want those diverse reads that have characters that are relatable, that is going to be a unique story that's going to be told beautifully. So I love seeing so many indie authors like rise up. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's like you said, even the neurodivergent side of it, like it's such a wide spectrum of everybody. It's actually a cross section of everybody writing instead of just the same old, same old. So I love it. Not any harsh on traditional because it's something for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about In the Shadows itself. It's been praised for its unique take on some of the familiar tropes. How did you approach flipping these tropes and on their head?
Because I was sick of the normal. I was like,
Back to it being a challenge.
Like the same old, same old. And so it really, a lot of it wasn't done on purpose. It was, I had a certain idea of what I wanted, and I really just let the story unfold. I'm very much a pantser when it comes to writing. It's a character-driven story, so I kind of give like parameters, and then I let the crazy people in my head talk and do what they want, and that's how the story came about. And when I say that to people, are like, what are you talking about? I was like, you don't have the characters just like doing what they want in your head. They're like, no, that I'm going to say that's the spicy in me. That's what they do. They just kind of, and I write down their things. Okay. I'm like, okay, what did you do? So a lot of it is just that. And I wanted something a little bit different, and I wanted aspects of mythology mixed in. And so you get, instead of a shadow daddy, you get a shadow mommy. Instead of her being the damsel in distress that needs saved, you get the MMC. That's essentially a damsel in distress that needs saved over and over again. And so, and he's also like, everyone's like, oh, you've always got to have the smart, book smart FMC. And I'm like, no, my MMC is a genius and he loves to read. That's like his favorite thing. He wanted to be a scholar, that he could like teach people and like read all these books and like absorb all the knowledge of the realm. That's what his goal is. But obviously he had some trauma happen when he was a child and he couldn't do that. And so he had to become this like really strong man and be a captain of the guard. And so he is like this like kind of softy, but yet he's like kind of brooding all at the same time. He's like, oh, I have to be this tough guy. You don't really get to see that. You don't get to see like the dynamic of he's got to have this facade where he's like this big man, like, you can't hurt me. And then, but he's also like, maybe I'm going to go steal that book about mythical creatures in the library. Sit down and read it in an evening. And then you've got her who's like, I'm going to go drinking at the bar because I have problems. There's one quote specifically. Lily's got all kinds of issues, but she deals with her problems not in healthy ways. And she even says that in the book because she's like, I'm going to go drink. Is it the best way to deal with my problems? No, but I wasn't raised how to properly handle my problems. So it's like, relatable, girl, relatable. And it's like, yeah, I wanted something a little bit different, right? I wanted to change it up, and fated mates are still the same. It's not technically fated mates because they're all humans. Fae is so common in fantasy romance. And I was like, no, I don't want fae. I want mortals. Why do I want mortals? Because they can, they're, fae, they can, I'm thinking about Akatar, they can come back to life. And I'm like, mortals can just poof, be done.
God. Yeah.
Like, they can just disappear, especially if you've got some mean gods. Like, it happens. And I loved Hercules growing up. I don't know, like, if everybody else does, but I love like, the fates in that where they have, like, the string and they, like, draw it out and then they cut it all, like, dramatically. That was,
Yeah.
like, I was like, yeah, I want something like that. But, like, the strings have to be, like, their own entity. And so that's like mixed in, and so like the fates have their own like aspect of the mythology story, and you've got gods mixed in, and so I'm like, I just need something a little bit different. So I just went for it.
Very cool.
Just went right into it.
That's awesome. And your book has some themes that are a little bit darker, some forbidden love and some memory loss. How did you, or what drew you to those themes?
That was just what the story did. I'm like,
Okay.
why
It came to life. Just did its
it
thing.
did, because I knew I wanted something to like, the best way to describe the story is fated mates, but like nothing goes right. Like if you want it to hurt and you want things to be very difficult, that is what this story is. And you know, you have to have like driving force, right? Something that separates them. I keep hitting my microphone a little bit because I keep smacking it. Pause for a second. But I wanted something to like make it where there had to be a driving force that they couldn't come back together, right? Because I can't make it easy. That would be too, no. And so I started like playing with this idea of like amnesia, and it's more like forced amnesia. It's not like, oh, I got bumped on the head. It's like you were drugged and you don't remember really anything. And so I was like, yeah, that'd be fun. Cause then you get to mix in like magic as a like tonic and like all the like healing properties and stuff like that. You can mix in like a little bit of magic there as well. And it's like has this like depth to it that could really lead the story into other places. Because at any time you could just be given an elixir and forget things. So you got to have something that really like what could make it where they can't be together, right? Well, he doesn't remember anything. So
it would be too easy if they figured it all out at the beginning.
Can't be easy. That's my readers call me an unreliable author. So instead of being an unreliable narrator, I'm just an unreliable author because you know I'm not going to make it easy. You know I'm going to be lying to you the entire time. And I'm probably going to gaslight you into thinking you know the story. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to throw it out the window and give you something different. And so I'm always like, yeah, that's just where my mind goes. I can't help myself.
So we were talking a lot about Instagram and the community. What has been the most rewarding feedback that you've experienced from the readers of In the Shadows?
That it reminded them why they love to read. That's probably like,
wow, that is cool.
I've had a couple of those now, and another advice for any authors out there. And when you get things like that, screenshot them and save them on your phone or save them somewhere so that you can have them as like reference when you're having those like really bad days. And you're like, why am I doing this? Oh, it's because I had a couple of readers reach out to me and say, this destroyed me. I need more. Or I have
That's
a couple
awesome.
that have reached out and said, this book reminded me why I love to read. Like it renewed my love for like the genre. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I think that's incredible. And it's great advice too, to screenshot and, you know, do your own little poster board of why it matters.
I have 2 videos on my phone and they're from readers and we're in like other chats for different things. And someone had mentioned my book and then several people in the chat had already read my book and were like, oh my God, I loved it. And so they screenshotted it and like started screen recording it and then sent it to me. And so I just have these videos on my phone of several readers going back and forth talking about how much they love my book. And I'm like, all right, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, heart melting. That's so cool.
If I need it. And I think it can get really like dark sometimes when you're like, as an author, again, you're very alone. You don't have like a lot. You have support, but I mean, we're not writing, like you can write with other people, but like you're still at your computer by yourself kind of thing. And so you can kind of get lost in the sauce where you're like, why am I doing this? And we need those moments where you have like people talking about it. Even the ones where I have stories. If you have tagged me in a story and it's like you crying, I have that on my phone. as a reminder, because I need that reminder. I have one, my alpha, she finished the book, and it's just a video of her aggressively hitting the down button on her computer. She's like, where's the rest of it?
More. I want more.
You can't end it like that. And I was like, well, I did. And so I just still have that on my phone because I'm like, this makes me happy because it reminds me, yes, I have all these people like waiting on the story, like wanting to know what happens. And it's all in my head and I have to get it out. I have to word vomit for them to figure it out. That definitely helps keep you motivated and like,
Yeah, I was going to say it's good motivation for you for the next book. That's awesome. So what's one book or author that's had a major influence on your writing style?
I would say it's probably a mix of Scarlett St. Clair and Sarah J. Maas, specifically in Throne of Glass. I really like their mixture of like everything, right? Like you have like Throne of Glass, it's mainly like the fantasy in the beginning, right? You get all of like that massive world building and you get this like expansive like world throughout. And then you start to get this building of the romance and like the way it's done. I really love the MMCs. Like I am a Rowan girly to my core. I love the bird. The buzzard is amazing. And so I love like how in depth, like how captured you are and how you feel all the emotions of those characters. And then for like Scarlett, I mean, I have a Scarlett St. Clair shelf. I have all of her books signed because I adore her so much. And I just love her like that you can mix the fantasy and the romance with like the spice portions, right? Like it can be added to the story where it's not just spice throughout, but you get this like connection between the characters where it's building on their relationship and it's not like just thrown in there, but you get this like massive like world too where it's really interesting. It's really kind of fascinating. You get to like uncover things where you're going and people get to like find themselves in the process. And so I would say that those two would probably have the biggest impact on my writing.
Yeah. Wow. And so I have to ask if you've ever read Crescent City too,
I
because
have, yes.
most people like to put ACOTAR ahead of everything, and I go the opposite. So what's your order?
I think I could better answer that when I reread ACOTAR because I would definitely put it like Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, Crescent City. But it's like when I say like ACOTAR and Crescent City, like in that, they're like hairs away from each other. Like Throne of Glass is like off the charts. And then the other two are just
so
kinda, like,
epic.
it's so epic. I have this joke that I call it the Fast and the Furious because it starts like pretty normal. And then where you end up, you're like, how did we get here? You're like,
Right.
I don't know how we went from here to there. And you got to follow it. There's a line that pulls it together, but you're like, how do we get there?
Yeah.
And so it's definitely Throne of Glass is on its own. I read ACOTAR before even, and this is like the funniest thing. I read the Sarah J. Maas stuff before I joined social media. And like reading Throne of Glass, like now I look back and I'm like, man, that was lonely. I wish I would have had somebody to like read it with because I read it before I joined social media, which is also why I read Throne of Glass in like a random order. Everyone's like, oh, where do you read Assassin's Blade? I'm like, I read it second because I didn't know there was an order to it because I didn't know that Assassin's Blade even existed until after I started reading Throne of Glass. And I just so happened to catch something on Facebook that said, oh, you should read Assassin's Blade first. And I was like, what?
Oops.
I was supposed to read that first? So then I quickly read it second and then I finished the rest of the series.
Well, it's the good thing about Assassin's Blade, though, is kind of it doesn't really matter where you read it.
Just toss it in there somewhere. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's going to break your heart no matter where you put it, so it's fine.
That's right. So what's the best way for readers to connect with you and stay updated with your work?
I would say Instagram is where I'm most of the time. It's my home. It's where I spend. If I'm opening an app, that's where I'm at, is Instagram. And then TikTok, I have everything. So all my social media links are on my website, which is just lbaugustauthor.com. And I have YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I have a reader group on Facebook that I share exclusive in, as well as my broadcast channel on Instagram. They usually get behind the scenes kind of stuff. I just like to tease them. So I usually throw it in there. Or my newsletter. I send out a newsletter once a month, and that usually gets like before scenes. So every month I share a new art that I have, and I share a quote from Beneath the Veil, or like some kind of scene that I've been working on that like really I can't wait to share with people. And so before that goes public, I always send it out in my newsletters. So they'll be getting a new picture, my new art that I get to share, and they get to see the reader group, and my broadcast channel has already seen the exclusive. No one else has yet besides you. So this is brand new. I mean, I just got it like this past week, I think, or something like that. So very, very new, but they've already seen it, and then they'll get to see the art first, and they get to see quotes and everything first. So if you want a little extra, that's how you get those before everybody else.
And when it goes on sale, they have early access? Or
yes. And I will say for Beneath the Veil that I'm writing now, which would be book 2 with this, I don't plan on posting ARCs or ALCs online. It will only go to my subscribers. So if it would be something that you would want, and I've been trying to like tell people, you know, if you want a chance to get because I do have an audiobook, and I plan on doing an audiobook for book 2 as well. If you want any of the early copies, you have to be a subscriber, because otherwise it gets a little crazy posting it online. I'm like, not again. I'm not doing that. So it's only going to be people. I'm like, I'm good. I don't want to sign up for that again. I'm just going to do the people that I know have read it and enjoyed it that are subscribed to me. So we're good.
That's awesome. And are you doing any other work after your second novel?
So I am going to leave it up to the readers on if they want the other 3 books in the series. And I do plan on taking a break. I have an anthology I'm supposed to be in for next year that I may participate in. And then I have a contemporary romance I want to write. I actually have a thriller I'm going to probably be writing next, a paranormal thriller. I have a couple contemporary romances. I have a romantic fantasy. So it's more fantasy than it is romance. So I've got that. I have a whole list. I have like when an idea randomly comes to me, I just start writing them in a spreadsheet, and like it's a whole thing. So I just have a whole list of stuff. But I have a couple, I have a random contemporary romance that I think I want to write. It's a little meet cute kind of thing. So it'd be like a really short, like KU book. So I think I may end up writing that just to take a break from fantasy, because I'm like, fantasy after a while gets kind of heavy. So I'm like, I might just go throw out this contemporary romance and then paranormal thriller where, you know, there's creatures and stuff.
Exactly. That's cool. So you also have a podcast that you do.
I do. I have a podcast with my best friend, Carrie. It is Unhinged Bookish Thoughts. We're on almost all platforms, I would say. Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Overcast. We're as many platforms as we can be on for podcasts. We're on them. And we just really talk about books that we love. So once a month, we talk about our favorite reads from the previous month. So this Thursday, well, tomorrow on this, it's released on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Thursday of every month. The first Thursday is always our review from the previous month. June, we're doing May's reads that we read and trying to convince you whether or not you should read it with a simple yes or no. And it's always hilarious. We're not serious at all. So we're always saying there's a reason it's called Unhinged. Okay. We just say whatever comes to mind. So
That's so fun.
If you love like fantasy romance, Carrie reads a lot of sports romance right now. She's been really into hockey romances. So that's kind of like her thing at the moment. I read a lot of monster romances. So if you want like a very like random assortment of like book recs, come on over. Every week on our page on Instagram and TikTok, we post book recs, and they almost are always indie authors. So if you're an indie author and you would like to be included in one, you can always reach out. But we always have book recs every Friday on there that you can find a plethora of things. There's so many books. And then at least once a month we do indie author chats. So right now we are doing authors that are going to be attending Villains and Vixens in September. That'll be in Texas. I am one of the signing authors there. Carrie's an influencer. And so we will be going and bothering people anyway with our microphones as podcasters, because, well, that's who we are. But we have a bunch of the authors that I've met through different resources as an indie author. And so they've so graciously said that they would come on and talk with me and her. And so we're interviewing them. And then we always do a buddy read too. And this month, in June, we actually have 2 of them. So we always read at least 1 book a month. And you never know what it's going to be. Never. This month it's a dark
Wicked.
romance and a contemporary romance. Who knows? We just randomly throw
That's
things in there.
so fun. I absolutely love that. That's like your energy is just contagious. I've been smiling the whole time we've been talking. I just love your energy.
Thank you.
So I've really enjoyed chatting with you tonight. So thank you so much for spending your evening with me.
Thanks for
And
having me. This was great.
And I'm very interested in these two books, and I think it's so exciting to see what you've done. I think it's amazing.
Thank you so much. It's definitely been a rough journey, but it's been a lot of fun, and it's been a unique experience that I never thought I would have. I never dreamed about being an author, but now I'm like, well, this is what I'm going to be doing, so let's go for it.
Wicked. So what's one thing that you would like to say to somebody that is picking up In the Shadows for the very first time?
Sorry, not sorry.
Love it.
That's it. I'm
Thank
sorry
you
for the
so
cliffhanger
much.
that you will be on at the end of book 1. Enjoy. But read it, because the emotional damage it really feels good.
Worth it.
It's worth it.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.